Baylor football is still really good at recruiting, but are they going to have to give up some of their piece of the pie so that the ACC powers could come into this conference? This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Baylor crossover.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12 with crossover Locked On Baylor. Thanks for making this show your first listen every single day. I am Drake Toll from America's number one Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Also the new offensive coordinator at Appalachian State. Solid first season. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. If you don't, I go back to the couch and continue my career as the offensive coordinator at Appalachian State. That is Cameron Stewart of Locked On Baylor. And today, Clemson and Florida State. Do they get paid more than everybody else, Baylor included? In the middle segment, the SEC has slapped Texas in the face again. Horns down, we can do it. UT, that's Tennessee. And in the last segment, Baylor football is recruiting. That's real. Top of the show, Clemson and Florida State. Big topic is them coming to the Big 12. And now we know with private equity and the numbers coming from private equity, it could be a multi-billion-dollar deal the Big 12 is able to sign with a corporate company to bring more revenue to the conference. The issue with that is if you're going to bring in Florida State and Clemson, they're probably going to ask for more money. So it's a Greg Swaim tweet. Everybody, buckle up.
Take that for what it's worth.
I get
Please.
it. Buckle up. It's a Greg Swaim tweet. He had something
But it's
very
more like Greg Swaim kind of building off something we know, the rumor that confirmed to be true, and he's kind of building off it. So it's not Greg Swaim putting his bits on the table like he usually does and being like insanely wrong.
He had a very good self-aware tweet a couple days ago where he goes, "This next news I'm about to break is crazy, even for me." And I thought, good, Greg. Good. At least we know. Greg Swaim says, breaking. The Big 12 will use private equity funding to help Florida State and Clemson with their ACC buyout, but no unequal revenue sharing, as several are reporting. So even I have talked about how revenue share in the Big 12 would be different for these two because they're such bigger programs, and they will have to commit long-term or no deal. If you are a Baylor or a Texas Tech or BYU or the host of Locked On Big 12, for me, if these two schools say, hey, instead of $40 million a year, we want $55 million a year or $50 million a year, I am going to give it to them to come to the Big 12. And I don't see a world where your mark balks at that. Would you, guy who's sitting in house, or you, person listening in car that you're still paying payments on, would you, playing commissioner, give them an extra $15 million?
Yes. Yeah.
Why not? You know?
I think there is a scenario where you say no. I can't say there's not, because if they say, hey, everyone's getting 40, we'd like 75, then yes, you probably say no. The beauty of this, Drake, is that it's not our money. So yes, pay them big time. And I did not expect this to be one of the benefits of getting private equity involved, which I did an episode of on Locked On Baylor. I don't love the idea of private equity muddling in the affairs of the Big 12 and these member schools. I don't love it. And I kind of looked at some benefits, and I'm not going to lie, this wasn't one of them, but this is an unexpected benefit. This is a pleasant surprise of, well, yeah, now you have some backing. Now you have some instant cash flow. I'm wondering, is this what Brett Yormark was thinking the whole time? Because there's plenty of other things, obviously, we've heard about this summer for, kind of instant cash flow, right? The naming rights to the conference, going along with private equity, sponsor patches on the uniforms and on the field. Like, those are things that are short and long-term good for the conference financially, right? It's not just hey, this is going to be good down the line, or our payouts are going to be bigger in 3 or 4 years, the way it is with the media contract. No, it's going to be good then, and it's also going to be really good for us now. And it gives us financial flexibility that maybe the Big 10 and the SEC have, but that the Big 12 should not have, in theory, right? It's money that we didn't have coming in last year. And so that is something to where it's failed analogy here. It's almost like a sports team going into their trade deadline that's like, yeah, we're going to have some money down the line, but we also got some things to play with right now. And instead of draft picks, the Big 12's just got money, that we can throw at these right now to become a contender right now. And that was something that I looked at this weekend like, I didn't really expect that to be here, but that could be one of the Big 12's best benefits they have going right now.
And you could give every member institution of the Big 12 $2 million extra if these two schools come in at a normal rate.
And by the way, it's going to be in the next 2 years, the new member schools getting more of a cut as well. So there is that to factor in, but it's almost like this is working independently of that just to get them in the door.
And if those two brands help you in your next contract negotiation with ESPN or Fox, who seem to be driving the ship behind this, when the networks say, yeah, you've got Florida State and Clemson, we'll give you an extra gajillion dollars, it was worth it to give the weighted teams more of that money. And the guy like sitting here in my I don't see any of this money. I don't make any, the armchair GM at home of, oh, we should have signed him for 12 million, not 15, yelling that about their franchise, whatever. You don't. The money
There's
doesn't
no
matter
salary
to you.
cap here either.
Money doesn't matter
so it
to
doesn't
you.
even matter to them.
I wish Greg Swain would tweet, Drake Toll will never date a super hot girl.
That would be cool.
Because the odds
He'd
would
be
just
right
skyrocket,
for one time.
The odds would like Drake Toll will never date Livy Dunn. It's like, thank you, Greg.
You guys do have a history.
Source. Breaking. Thank you.
My sources are telling me.
4 or 5 hashtags. The hashtag Livy Dunn will never date hashtag Drake Toll. And then we see where it goes. Coming up, the SEC hates Texas. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, and it's every day. Today's episode of Locked On Big 12 with the Locked On Baylor crossover is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is where I go when I need to, rent's coming up in 10 days, when I need to bet on Nick Castellanos to hit a home run during some sort of national historic event. And over the course of this weekend, if you follow it, you don't even have to follow politics. You just have to, be aware. Castellanos hit a home run on Sunday. It was like plus 600 that he would do it. And with 2 outs in the ninth, of course he does, because that's what he does when big things happen on big days. All customers at FanDuel with a booster or bonus daily get the best of the best in sports betting. And you could have gone and bet on Nick Castellanos just like me and all of my friends, because it's funny. Visit FanDuel.com to look at odds right now for Major League Baseball. FanDuel.com, the official sports betting partner of the MLB. Locked On Big 12 here. That is Cameron Stewart of Locked On Baylor. Texas is getting the shaft from the SEC. Horns down. Yeah, we can do it. The head official is like, I don't know if there's anything wrong with it. We can do it. And then, hey, Texas, you want to be UT? Not in this conference. The SEC has made it clear that Tennessee, Knoxville is UT of the SEC, and that Texas will go by Tex. Just Tex. I was ready. I was so ready. People made memes about this first. It just means more. Is Texas ready for the SEC? The lights will be too bright. They're too soft. And now that we're here, it's the little things where you go, damn it, Greg Sankey is actually delivering right now, right in Texas' face.
Dude, this is so such a humbling experience. It's like every sports movie you watch where the big fish in the small pond goes to the big school, and it's like, you're not special anymore. Yeah. We recruited you. We made you feel special about yourself, and now you're just another cog in the machine, so to speak. And I love that, because look, we had to deal with just so much petty UT, as in the University of Texas stuff. I didn't want to confuse it with the real UT there. Right. But we dealt with so much petty Texas stuff in this conference, and one of which, of course, being the horns down penalty, which just never was understandable. And if it was happening to Kansas State or West Virginia or Baylor, that would never be a penalty. Never, right? And now they're in the SEC, and it's like, look, we paid a little coin for you guys to get here, but you're not special. You don't have this network to save you. You don't pull the strings. You're not the puppet master of the conference anymore. This is what you signed up for. Okay. You came in here and you're not going to be the dominant brand, the dominant force. And you're just going to have to deal with that. If people want to do this after they score a touchdown on you, we're going to let that happen. We're going to let that happen because you're just another school here. You just are. I mean, we almost let a school just do a touchdown celebration of a dog pissing, but that was a little too far over the line.
Too much.
But the horns down, yeah, you can do that. And it makes me feel like we're in, that this country still stands for something, that we could still do horns down. It's not all bad, Drake. Okay.
It's not. It feels like we're coming back.
We're so back.
5 years ago, of course you can't do horns down, man. It's bullying. Today, we're here in the SEC. My favorite part of this whole thing is earlier today I Googled it because the first place I saw it was like a Barstool account and thought, that's not real. Turns out that's real. It lives with us on Earth. The article titles are great on this one. For the Austin American-Statesman, case closed. Texas loses to Tennessee in the UT debate for conference in the SEC. This one, Knoxville News. Debate over. SEC endorses Tennessee as the real UT over Texas. Tennessee over Texas. The SEC has officially made the call on who is the real UT. Imagine being a Texas fan and just scrolling through every AP, NPR, the BBC, and just, you can't even, there's not a rebuttal here. Your whole ass conference went and said, you can't do it. It's not you. And maybe what's worse is Tex is so stupid. Just those three letters, like BAY for Baylor, TTU for Texas, WVUS, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. Tex, that sucks. And they hate it.
And what's funny is like, once you're in the Texas bubble, like there's a reason why we always say UT, because, we, as in Baylor people or Tech people or TCU, love to disparage the Longhorns. But the thing they love more than that is the great state of Texas. So they don't want to be like, yeah, Texas sucks or F Texas. It's FUT, right? And now the fact that they went to the conference, they're like, nope, we have one. It's older than you. You are going to be Texas and you're going to like it. While going against what we like to do here in the state is objectively funny. I'm sorry. It just is. Is Tennessee older? I believe it's a few years older.
Yeah, I mean,
so they staked the claim first.
Tennessee sent the people who fought the Alamo.
I was going to say, if not for Tennessee, there would not be a Texas. So thank you. Much like there would be no France without us here in the U.S. So thank you to Tennessee.
They're called the Volunteers because they went and volunteered. All things point to Tennessee being the real UT here and helping. If not for Tennessee, that's still Mexico. Still Austin is Mexico. It's all West Texas.
And I go to some liberal arts college in Maine or something. Oof, madam.
It would all be West Mexico. Texas Tech, Lubbock would be right there with them. I am happy that they're unhappy. Also, the Oklahoma feels like the kid with the lunch pail freshman year, first day of high school. It's just kind of sitting back there like, nobody look at me. Nobody look at me. Nobody say anything. Fly, just fly under the radar, get good grades.
They were the ones who were like, man, we're done. We're done with 11 a.m.s. Like, we're actually going to have some competition in this conference. When it was announced a couple of years ago, they're like, hell yeah, man. We're the ones that deserve to be here. And UT is going to suck. Sorry. Tex is going to suck. And we're going to compete in this conference. And now they're just like, happy to be here. Really happy to not be playing a Big 12 basketball schedule. We're gonna mind our own business. If you could give us Mississippi State Vanderbilt, maybe even a Florida, because in a couple years that'll look like a good win, a better win than it is now. If we could just do that, that'd be sick. That'd be really cool.
Is Clark Lee still at Vanderbilt? I think he is, right?
Who the hell is that?
Exactly. I
don't know anyone from Vanderbilt.
Brent
Mosley asked me the
Venables.
other day of who the coach was at Vanderbilt. I have no idea.
I
Is that
imagine
him?
Brent
I don't know.
Venables. Yeah, it's Clark Lee. Is
That's
at
super
SEC Media Days, and they put him at the table next to Vanderbilt, and it's just Venables and Clark Lee, and he's like, "Can I follow you? Can we just kind of follow each other around today?" And then at some point, like, it's Venables at one urinal, Clark Lee's at the other because they're attached to the hip now. Brian Kelly walks in. Hey, what's up, guys? And Venables just, he said on us.
Venables rips a huge fart because that's what they do at the urinals at Oklahoma.
He
Way
said
to
hi.
go into a story that only 2 people know, Cam. Thank you.
Yeah, you've told that one in public before.
Yeah. The guy in the press box at OU just absolutely
terrible press
let one
box, by the
rip
way.
while being in the urinal. Terrible stadium, by the way. And he was like, "Oh, sorry about that." Like Belushi and Blues Brothers when he smashes the guitar, he's just like, "Sorry." And I was just like, man, if you can't do it here, where can you do it?
It's America.
It was uncomfortable, sure, but it was the bathroom. What am I going to say? Anyway, the boys from Oklahoma.
Norman specifically. They roll them different. Coming up, Baylor football is magical on Locked On Big 12. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Look,
you're welcome for derailing that, by the way.
If anybody has been just not happy with Baylor football, but by the way, gonna be very clear, top of the show, they went 3-9. I didn't make them go 3-9, and I don't like that they went 3-9. I don't like that the coach that made them go 3-9, who appreciates questions, or used to at least,
used to
hang out.
Used to.
And I get that I've been cynical toward the program, and I'm not a big Aranda fan. All right, let's lay it on the table. However, wow, this whole recruiting thing. Walk me through the Baylor Bears, who are the number one Big 12, who have the top 2 recruiters, individual human beings per 24/7 in the Big 12. Where, why? Like the Dave Aranda thing of we're paying play. So is everybody else. So is everybody else.
And a lot of them are paying more money. Yeah.
Bags University. Where did this come from? Basically overnight.
Well, I will say it's kind of highlighted by the fact that you mentioned the top 2 recruiters in this conference as coaches. And what's funny is one of them was on the staff the last few years, right? Yeah. For how bad Baylor's been in recruiting. The reason is the other guy, Keenan Hall. He is the reason. I mean, he comes from SMU, which, I would understand if you wouldn't follow that nationally, but here in Big 12 country and within the state of Texas specifically, it's been weird the last couple of years. You're like, SMU? SMU got that guy? Or this kid's picking between Alabama and SMU. They literally just had a quarterback a few weeks ago flip from SMU to Alabama. Like that's a real example right there. And so it's like, that's weird. They've gotten some good guys in through the door. And then all of a sudden, Baylor hires SMU's best recruiter, makes him the associate head coach or assistant head coach, whatever it is. And all of a sudden, these guys start flipping from SMU to Baylor. And these guys who had SMU in their top 4 are picking Baylor, like big-time players. And that is the Keenan Hall effect, brother. That is it. And I don't know. I don't know how he's pulling this off. It makes you wonder, what could this guy do after they go 10-2? If that happens, this is off a 3-9, and it's bad. They lose all these home games. They're not competitive. They're never ready to play. We hear Dave's excuses after the game. I got to go on Twitter and see Drake Toll talk about how bad they are and how no one goes to games and how they can't recruit anybody. And look, and I think I said this somewhere, I think on the podcast, I was with you on the recruiting thing for a while there. I was trying to frame the questions of like, is this good enough? Like this isn't great still. They had some nice names here and there, but it wasn't great.
That was Dave's crutch to keep his job. We have a lot of
that was a big thing.
Young talent and a really good recruiting class. And then like 5 of the top guys left within the span of a month. And it was catastrophe, including the quarterback kid that went to Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
Who bad, by the way, when we saw him in person.
On the one game we saw, is terrible.
Threw for negative yardage. More passes complete to the opposing team in 4A Texas football, 3A Texas football. But I just don't. Why? How? This just all of a sudden Baylor is in the middle. And maybe the better question for me is, if they do go 3-9 again, because those horses aren't in the stable yet.
Correct.
Do you just make Keenan Hall the head coach? Do you do what you should have done with Joey McGuire? What you could have done with Joey McGuire?
Maybe. Joey also did have a dynastic reign as a Texas high school football coach too. There's worth noting. And I mean, you'd have to keep him on the staff no matter what at this point.
Please. Yeah.
And it's also worth noting, to the point that we kind of talked about a few minutes ago, was like, even right after official visit season, which that next week after the official visits, there's like a wave of commitments. Baylor did not have that. The July 4th holiday, we're like, they need another commitment or two to kind of shore up this class. And they've had 3-4 stars since then. And guys who are picking them over much better teams. But that is something to keep in mind. I know there are a lot of wet blankets who come into the comment section. Oh, we don't have them until they actually come on campus. No. They're right. They are correct. And while Baylor is shoveling out some money now, they don't have endless pockets. And there are going to be other programs that are going to offer these kids bags before the end of their senior season. And like that's inevitable. And there is still a world where Baylor starts 1-3 or 2-4, and you're firing the head coach before homecoming. That's still possible. And if that's the case, obviously it's all up in the air, because Keenan Hall let's just play that out. Dave Aranda gets fired during the season. Keenan Hall might not know what his job's going to be until Christmas. And, that's around National Signing Day. The recruits aren't going to wait on that. They're going to say, well, if you don't know, I'd love to follow you, coach, but I've got these other offers from, blue blood Power 5 programs. So that is still the big equalizer here, is Baylor needs to have some momentum on the field this year, which is not guaranteed just because they have gotten some good prospects. They need to win this year. They need to get to a bowl game in order to keep that momentum going, or else you're just a team that's had their 4th losing season in 5 years.
Or you fire Aranda, hire Gary Patterson, keep Keenan Hall on staff, make him the offensive coordinator, and go about your day. Head of recruiting or whatever. That
would not be a bad scenario. That would be a bad bounce back.
My thing is, if you keep the recruiter, you can suck again. Clearly, and still keep a lot of these kids, right? Because the kids understand you sucked last year, and they're still committing to the school. So the selling point had to have been from Keenan Hall, we will give you money, one, and you can come be the guy who makes us not suck.
That builds us up, yeah.
We very obviously were not good. You can't put makeup on 3-9 and say, oh, we're a couple plays away. You weren't. However, you can be with these guys. Baylor has the third highest Big 12 recruiting class behind number 1, my alma mater, the TCU Horned Frogs. Number 2, UCF, who will become a recruiting juggernaut. They are in Orlando, Florida. That's tough to compete with. Baylor has the most 4 stars of anybody in the league. My question is, for TCU and Baylor both then, a couple teams that really weren't good last season.
Correct.
If you were bad again this year, if the coaching changes in order, then how does that mix things up? And I'll be damned if Baylor goes 4-8 and Dave Aranda comes to the podium after that week 14 game, or 15. We have so many weeks, 2 buys now, and goes, we have a very good, strong class coming in. And then they give him, say, oh, well, he's a good recruiter. Keep his job. The Chad Morris effect. Arkansas was like top 25 every year under Chad Morris. He just couldn't win. He couldn't freaking win. I know.
Dave Aranda recruited play a bigger role than ever, by the way, now, if you want to keep giving bags to these kids. And they're the ones who are like, well, we got to start seeing some wins on the field. I actually think the position of Baylor and TCU football programs aren't as far off as TCU fans would like to think. It's probably about a year behind because let's just say they don't have a good year. Go ahead.
We've had this conversation. Baylor's 1 win away in 2022 from 2021 from being TCU. From being TCU 2022.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what have fans of TCU and Baylor alike said about that season as it relates to their head coach? Well, it wasn't his players. 2022 Sonny Dykes wasn't his players. I don't think he's a bad head coach, but that's what I mean. Like, they're a year or two off. If they miss a bowl game again, they're going to be thinking, well, is this Sonny's team? Like, what are we doing here? The same way we as Baylor fans did, especially after last year at 3-9, of like, oof, once Dave got his guys in the door, it started to go south.
Yeah. They're good on paper. Some of the recruiting's been bad the last few years. Not colossally bad, but bad, especially when you started losing you built a top 30 class, 25 class, and it fell apart at midnight.
And it was a couple years in a row of mediocrity too. It's not like there was one just inexplicably bad class. True. There was, and some not great planning within recruiting. Great recruiting plans throughout the years where, one guy falls off the wagon at the last hour and you have nothing to back it up. So things like that. Yeah, this has been a revelation, man. A resurgence, if you will.
Not that Rule was great, mostly in the 30s probably, but
yeah, he just knew how to develop them.
He who should not be named, Art Briles. They were recruiting back then for sure.
Joey had an eye for talent.
Joey was good. Joey was good. Now he's the head coach of Texas Tech. That's Cameron Stewart. I am Drake Toll. I gotta get back.
He's the head coach of Texas Tech.
They hired him. Yep. I gotta get back to my team. The App State Mountaineers are in the college football playoff, 12 seed as a group of 5 team. We lost to Liberty earlier in the year, though. It sucked.
It happens. Trust me. Okay. Take it from me.
Been there for sure.
It happens. Stuff to hang your head about.
At Real Cam Stewart on Twitter, or The Cam Show, or Locked On Baylor. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.